Hello, Gold Derby. This is Daniel Montgomery, and I'm here with Quintale, is one of our music posters and one of our music aficionados at Gold Derby, and we're here to talk about the Grammys, obviously, which the nominations are going to be announced soon, and we're here to talk about the general field, the top four categories: Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist. And first, before we get into the nitty-gritty of each category, I think the big question, that seems to be surrounding these awards is Taylor Swift. Is it just going to be a Taylor Swift sweep? What do you think?
I don't think she's going to sweep this year. I think she'll get an Album of the Year. I believe that'll be her only nomination in the Big Four. They don't really give out too many Record or Song of the Year nominations. She's already been nominated for Shake It Off, You Belong With Me, We Are Never Getting Back Together. So I think this year they're just going to say, hey, here's your Album of the Year nod, and be happy.
Yeah, it is interesting. Last time she was nominated for Album of the Year for Red, she had a song from that nominated for Record of the Year, but it was in the previous period, but she wasn't nominated the year she got the Album of the Year nod for Red. And it's sort of the similar situation where she released Shake It Off in the previous eligibility period and got nominated for Record and Song. So, a lot of us, and myself included, actually are predicting her to get into Record and Song for Blank Space. I just thought the same thing about I Knew You Were Trouble the last time she was up for Red. So that did not happen. So that's definitely possible. Do you think she'll win Album of the Year?
No. She'll definitely be nominated. She has the biggest album. I think it's still a little too soon to give her another Album of the Year win so fast. And she'll have some competition. Hopefully we'll talk about that when we get to that category. So, yeah. I don't think she's going to take that.
I have similar skepticism. She's leading in our predictions, and it feels like probably almost by default because, it was the biggest album of the year. Just like Beyonce was the biggest album of the year. Last year, she got nominated. She didn't end up winning, and that's why another reason I'm skeptical. I kind of feel like she would be if she hadn't won for Fearless. It was 6 years ago now.
This would have been the perfect year to give it to her if she hadn't won for Fearless.
And that seemed so early. And that album, though, was a big hit for her. It didn't really seem, it didn't capture the zeitgeist in the way that I would have expected it to win Album of the Year, that early in her career. I feel like, they probably will want that one back a little bit so they can give it to her for this.
I think she'll have competition from someone like a Chris Stapleton, who has so much support in the country industry. I feel like his name will stand out with the other nominees, and they would just go crazy over him if he's nominated. And I'm really pulling for him to get in. So,
and let's get into Album of the Year. You sent me your predictions a few minutes ago, and we agree on. I think we agree on 4 out of the 5. You're predicting the 4 we agree on. Let me start with those. Are 1989 by Taylor Swift, which we discussed. To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar. Beauty Behind the Madness by Weeknd, and Black Messiah by D'Angelo. Where we diverge is you're picking Travel by Chris Stapleton to get in. I'm predicting Sonic Highways by Foo Fighters. I'm actually at the moment predicting it to win, although not too confidently. But Travel or Underdog? What are your thoughts about that? Why that one's getting in?
I believe the CMAs it was a few weeks ago. He had so much industry support. His album went #1 the following week, and he seems like the kind of artist that would win in that category against all of the more contemporary mainstream artists. So it just felt like the right choice. And if the Foo Fighters get in, I'll go with them. If they get in, I'll go with them definitely.
Yeah. Why I'm skeptical about Chris Stapleton is that he did have that huge CMAs night. He is a sort of the country star in the making. I did not expect him to have that kind of night. I predicted him to win Best New Artist. I never expected Album of the Year. I never expected Male Vocalist of the Year against some of country's biggest stars. I'm not sure how much that's going to translate here in terms of the general field. We might see him dominate the country field. I'm a little skeptical because I don't know what the record sales have been since the CMAs. I'm sure they've shot up, but they were really small by the time the CMAs came around. So it's, so he could be a big deal in country right now. I'm not sure he's a big enough deal in music yet, like cross genres to get in here. So I'm skeptical, but I do think he'll do well in the country categories at the very least.
Yeah. Initially, I had Sam Hunt in Album of the Year, but the reaction that Chris Stapleton got, I immediately changed my predictions. I said he's in. He just feels like the type of person that would get in this category, the type of artist who would get in and win against everyone else. It's just a feeling I have.
So do you have him winning, or just maybe a threat to win?
I think he's going to win if nominated. If nominated, I think he's going to win.
It's been it has been since Fearless, since we have had a country winner in this category. I'm trying to think of when the time before that was. I think it was the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack, probably that a country album won.
Did the Dixie Chicks win the year they swept?
You're right. Yeah, Dixie Chicks won for taking the long way.
Yeah.
That was sort of after they were exiled by country. That was still a country album. But what do you think about Kendrick Lamar? That's another, a lot of people in our prediction center, if they're not predicting Taylor Swift, he's the one people think is the one who's really going to take it. But he has to get past this. It's not an entirely, it's not entirely devastating for rap artists, because, Outkast won for Speaker Box The Love Below. Lauryn Hill won for Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which had R&B and hip hop and rap on it. So, I mean, they will embrace the right music by the right artist. So do you think he has a real shot at this, or will they just continue to say rap is just not for us in this race?
Although I don't believe he's going to win Album of the Year, I've always said if any rapper of this generation is going to win Album of the Year, it's going to be Kendrick Lamar. He's very respected in the industry. His album got amazing reviews. It did pretty well commercially. So I don't think he's going to take down someone like Foo Fighters or Chris Stapleton, someone who can reach a broader appeal. But if a rapper was to win, and I think I hate to say this word, locked, but I think he's pretty much locked for a nomination.
I kind of do too. I mean, he feels like, he was nominated for his previous album, A Good Kid, Mad City, and at that point, I mean, I wasn't really that cognizant of his work and who he was, and that year he got in even with the Heist by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, which is a completely different kind of rap music. But for them to nominate two rap albums in the same year, they picked the comfortable one that we knew they would go with, Heist, but they also went with him, which showed how much they loved him at the time. And I feel like the industry admiration for this guy has increased even. So critical acclaim is as much there as it ever has been. I feel like he's kind of the rap guy now. Like, they the Grammys, I feel like the Grammys give themselves permission to like a rap artist every once in a while, and they'll give them all the rap categories and nominate them for song or record or album, but they won't win 90% of the time. He feels like that guy. He's
definitely like a new Kanye West. I can see him being a Kanye West, where he's going to sweep the rap field. Album of the Year, not so much.
I do think it's possible, but you're right. It's a gritty, intense album for Grammy voters who tend to skew older, at least in their tastes. The fact that they didn't go with Beyonce, who had the biggest album that year, and certainly had the acclaim. They went with Beck, who sort of is more comfortable for them, even though that was also an acclaimed album, much more in their comfort zone. That's the one thing that makes me worried about Kendrick Lamar. Is there anything else you think has a chance to win this category among those you're predicting for a nomination?
If Chris Stapleton doesn't win, it's going to go to Taylor Swift. It's going to go to Taylor Swift. I just don't see her winning. I'm pretty sold on him winning. I hope I don't regret this next week, but I'm pretty sold on him winning this category.
Well, we have you on record, so
I know.
You have now lived to regret it. But It's me too. I'm predicting to win because they had us. But Sonic Highways wasn't their most acclaimed album, and it was released quite a while back. It was released last fall, and it's number 4 in our prediction center. So it's not even guaranteed that it gets in, but if it gets in, I think it wins.
And that's how I feel about Stapleton.
I might be in the same boat as you come next week. Okay, let's talk about the two single categories: record and song of the year, rewarding an individual song, the record of the year for the whole track, and song of the year for the songwriting. Let's start with record of the year, and let me start again with the predictions we have in common, and let me pull up mine to remind myself what predictions I'm making. I'm pretty sure we have 4 out of 5 similar again here, and the ones where we agree are Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars, Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran, All Right by Kendrick Lamar, and See You Again by Wiz Khalifa featuring Booth. Now, the one where we diverge is you're picking Fight Song by Rachel Platten. Tell me about that prediction.
Well, when I first heard that song, I said, this girl is getting a record song of the year. It felt... Certain songs, if you listen to Love Song by Sarah Bareilles, I got the same vibe from that, and I personally love the song. The song has been everywhere this year. It has amazing lyrics. It's very uplifting. It just feels like the song that they would go with, against the other big hits for Record of the Year. So, and I'm really rallying behind her to get in that category, and I hope she gets in. So.
Yeah, I think there's a chance there. I mean, that was, I've heard that song everywhere, if only in commercials. It's the kind of song where I hear it a million times, and then when I find out like there is an actual artist behind it, it's like, oh, that's that's who does that song, because I've heard that song everywhere. So that's definitely possible. That could come in and surprise there. Who are you actually predicting to win this one?
Uptown Funk. Yeah, Uptown Funk is definitely winning record of the year.
I kind of have to agree with you on that one. It's kind of, it was the song of the year just in terms of how big a hit it was. It was everywhere. If Fight Song was in a lot of commercials, then Uptown Funk wrote all the commercials. Like, I mean, Don't Believe Me, Just Watch was written practically to be featured in every commercial for every TV show or every product ever made. Couldn't avoid it. The only thing I think that could hurt it would be if people have fatigue with the song, but I don't think that's ever really hurt in the past. A lot of played out songs have won because they were so big in the first place, and it's been months since it was like everywhere, since you couldn't avoid it. So I feel like there's been time for people to get used to it again and not be tired of it maybe necessarily.
And it's a very likable song. It was well received. Everyone seems to love it. Unlike a song like Blurred Lines, where people got tired of it. They were over it by the time the Grammys started voting. So I believe Uptown Funk will win this. Pretty.
Yeah, and there didn't seem to be, because the last several years we've seen like the song of the summer. There's been one song usually that's been number 1 for like the entire summer. Fancy, Blurred Lines, and they get into record of the year, but there wasn't really a clear-cut song of the summer this year where it's clear, like, okay, that was number 1, that was everywhere. I've heard people talk about certain candidates like Cheerleader by Omi, but that's a song that I didn't even, that was easy to avoid last year. But yeah, that was basically it just came a few months early, Uptown Funk, and it has that old school vibe that.
Billboard did name "See You Again" as the song of the summer. It still felt a little early for that song too. Yeah, but Billboard named "See You Again" the song of the summer, and we both have it in record of the year. So maybe that'll be like this year's Fancy, where it'll get in, but maybe it's not going to be a threat to win.
And that spent like number 1 on its charts. It was huge, and Of course, it has the sentimental factor of Paul Walker's death and the Fast and the Furious tribute. It feels like that kind of safe rap choice, that they will make. So it's kind of like I'm actually looking at my list now. I'm kind of surprised I'm predicting both "See You Again" and "All Right" to get in. It seems like that's a rap heavy category for the Grammys. Yeah, if one of them falls out, which do you think it would be?
All right. All right. It'd definitely be all right. But the good thing is, See You Again was classified as pop this year. It was submitted to Best Pop Group. So maybe they're looking at it like as a pop song instead of a rap song.
That's true. Although that is strange, the classifications that happen there sometimes. It's like Fancy last year was also classified as pop, even though it is the definition of a rap sung collaboration. I don't know how it doesn't go rap sung collaboration where Iggy Azalea is rapping and Charlie X. So it's a rap song collaboration. That's what that category was invented for, and they put that in pop, and now they've put this in pop, which seems strange and maybe even counterproductive. I'm not sure "See You Again" has a better shot there. It probably would have been the strong front runner for a rap song.
Definitely would have won that category. Definitely would have won that category.
And the interesting thing is of course, we have two top general field categories that reward a single song, and then Song of the Year, of course, rewards just the songwriters specifically. And it's interesting to see where those match up and where those diverge. And this year, you're predicting a slight divergence. You're predicting one miss, between the two categories. The songs you have alike. You have Uptown Funk and Song of the Year, and Thinking Out Loud and All Right and Fight Song. You've dropped See You Again from that lineup, and you think for songwriting, Girl Crush by Little Big Town is going to get in. Why do you think Girl Crush is going to be a strong contender there?
Well, it was a very controversial song this year. Sometimes the Grammys like to go that route. It did amazing on the country charts, and then sometimes they'll throw in a country song and Song of the Year, like "The House That Built Me" by Miranda Lambert, "Need You Now" by Lady Antebellum, and it's just an amazing song. I feel like it was another song that was everywhere this year. I've heard it everywhere. Yeah, and it did well at the CMAs too, and I always pay attention to that show before the Grammys.
I agree that it has of all the country music from the past year, it has the most crossover appeal just because of the controversy. Because I mean, people who wouldn't have listened to it before listened to it because of the controversy, which turned out to be really nothing. Because people were upset about lyrics about having a girl crush, and then completely ignored, which is about an entirely heterosexual love triangle.
Exactly.
But it is a ballad, which of course, "Need You Now" was, and "The House That Built Me" was. So it does fit that mold. The one thing that keeps me from predicting that one is I don't know how much crossover appeal it had. Like, it's probably the most crossover of any country song this year. But I've crossed over, and my ear may not be close enough to the ground on that one. But yeah, that's probably the best bet for that slot. And I think I'm predicting almost the same. The one big difference actually that we can talk about next, I'm predicting in both categories, and you're not predicting it in either, is Weeknd's "Can't Feel My Face." Now, we were talking about songs that you can't avoid, songs that are everywhere. If there was another contender for Song of the Summer, though this was a little later in the summer, this might have been it. This was everywhere. This was his big breakthrough song on his big breakthrough album. You're predicting him to get into Album of the Year. Why not "Can't Feel My Face" for record or song?
I love The Weeknd. But had he submitted The Hills or Earned It, songs that sound a little more serious, a little more edgy, a little more dark, I feel like he would have been more of a contender in Record or Song of the Year. To me, Can't Feel My Face, it just doesn't feel like a Record of the Year nominee. I don't know how to explain it, but if he would have submitted The Hills, I probably would have predicted him. But to me, he submitted the wrong song. But I can still see him being nominated. Next week. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And sometimes, like if you like a Katy Perry or a Rihanna, they get an album of the year just for their big hits throughout the year, and the songs don't get nominated. So they'll just say, here's your album of the year nomination to reward all of your hit singles.
I disagree slightly in that I think he did choose the right one. If only, having nothing to do with the quality of the song relative to the others, just because it's the biggest, most recognizable hit he released. I think, that's say what you will about the Grammys, they like hits. They like what they recognize, they like what's been everywhere. They pick, they're kind of the anti-Oscars in that the Oscars have gone, the Grammys wouldn't pick a Birdman. The Grammys would go to the Guardians of the Galaxy of music. That's true. Can't Feel My Face was a much bigger hit. It was everywhere. It's the kind of song that we were talking about before that gets nominated but doesn't necessarily win. I think it's going to be similar to Sam Smith last year. He got into Album of the Year largely on the strength of that breakthrough song, Stay With Me, and he won Record and Song of the Year. I'm not predicting Weeknd to win them, but I think if Weeknd gets in, he gets in all three. I can see him getting out of all three or into all three. I'm not sure they're going to split him up that much.
He'll definitely probably get an album of the year. I think the difference between The Weeknd and Sam Smith, Stay With Me had a choir, live instruments. It was a more serious song. Can't Feel My Face just seems too bubbly. It seems too just one of those catchy songs that don't get in record or song of the year. Yeah, but right. I can still see it getting in too. So you might be right on this one.
But you're right that Stay With Me was a lot more geezer friendly. It was a classic love ballad. It's not secretly about drugs. Although I don't know, you could read it.
Confident with Stay With Me.
You never know. A deeper, closer reading about crystal meth addiction. I don't know. It's impossible. Sam Smith's mind at the time. But speaking of Sam Smith.
I'm sorry. I have Ed Sheeran winning Song of the Year for Thinking Out Loud. And I said this way back in February. I have Uptown Funk winning Record. I have See You Again winning, not See You Again, Thinking Out Loud winning Song of the Year. It's a well-written song. He's been nominated in the general field before. I feel like they've been waiting to give him his moment in the general field. And it's the perfect time to finally give it to him. And I really hope he pulls it through and wins Song of the Year for Thinking Out Loud. It's an amazing song.
It's kind of interesting with Ed Sheeran. He's been nominated in the general field for the last 3 years in a different category each time, and only that category. He was nominated for Song of the Year, for the A-Team, then Best New Artist, which is weird. We'll talk about that later, how he could be nominated, then for Best New Artist the next year, because we're going to have that issue again this year.
Oh, yeah.
And then last year for Album of the Year, and this year, watch it happen. This year he gets Record of the Year for Thinking Out Loud, nothing else. Because that would be a trend for him.
That's it. That seems to be the trend now.
Pick him up one time. And speaking of Best New Artist, which we were talking about, and we were also talking about Sam Smith, who won this category last year. Best New Artist is typically, I think, the most confounding category because eligibility requirements change, and it's hard to know from year to year who exactly will be in contention, who won't be, who was submitted, who wasn't, who is eligible, who isn't. This year, you have some new artists like Nick Jonas. We know is not eligible as a solo artist, and The Weeknd. He had his breakthrough this year, but he's not eligible for Best New Artist this year because he had previous albums. But we do have two who were nominated for Grammys last year who could be nominated for Best New Artist this year. And I'm predicting both of them to be nominated because this seems like a pretty thin year in the sense that there were no otherworldly big breakout hits. There were no Sam Smiths. There were no Funds. There were no, obviously, except for Adele, who, is back again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but so I think, and those two artists, of course, are Meghan Trainor and Hozier. Hozier was nominated last year for Song of the Year for Take Me to Church, And Meghan Trainor was nominated for Record and Song of the Year for All About That Bass. And the reason they're eligible this year is because their debut albums came out after the eligibility cutoff. So the Grammys are now allowing them to compete since their breakthrough album, their first album, is competing now. So their breakthrough songs get in, and now they're eligible again. That's what happened with Ed Sheeran, I believe. Also, so do you think those two are pretty much locks for nominations?
Oh yeah, I think we know by now that the Blue Ribbon panel likes them. They got in last year, and Meghan Trainor got in record song. Hozier got in song of the year.
Yeah.
So I think both of them are the two locks for a nomination, definitely.
But then after that,
but I wonder sometimes if that can also hurt them. Like, would people actually consider them a best new artist? You know what I mean? Would they actually put them to avoid controversy?
They might. I mean, it's, the fact that they did it with Ed Sheeran makes me think that they're not that bothered by it. Unless there was, and I don't remember there being that other, this gigantic backlash over Ed Sheeran getting in. I think there would have been more backlash if they let The Weeknd in, because he was a little bit more established before this year, even though this was clearly his big breakout moment. He was already known in music circles. He wasn't new to the music industry this year. So I think there would be a little bit more discontent if they let him in this year, but he is not eligible this year, which the other nominees or the other potential nominees in this category should count themselves lucky, because The Weeknd would be a solid winner in this category, given how he broke out and how recently his album and Can't Feel My Face, the song, were huge hits. So do you think Hozier or Trainor will win, one of those two?
She had an amazing year, but she just reminds me of the pop diva that gets in and doesn't win.
Meghan Trainor, I would think she gets in but doesn't win. Were there anyone else obvious to give it to? I mean, Hozier obviously is another strong possibility, but he hasn't been as prominent this year as Trainor has. After Take Me to Church came and then sort of faded in the public consciousness, he has and Meghan Trainor has been. She's had a couple more hit singles. Most recently, Like I'm Gonna Lose You. So it really feels like I was predicting Hozier for a while, and now I'm predicting Trainor, but tentatively. Do you think because Meghan Trainor has had more hits and has been more been higher in the public consciousness in the months and the years since All About That Bass, do you think that means she could even potentially take out Hozier?
Well, in Best New Artist, that really doesn't matter. You had someone like Adele who beat Jonas Brothers. This is way before she was the Adele we know of today. So they don't really care about the hits or the album sales. I think it's more about the acclaim, the respect, and Hozier fits that box more than Meghan Trainor. They'll reward her for her hits, her sales, her popularity. I don't think she's taken seriously yet to win Best New Artist.
Yeah, the hard part is coming up with the rest of this category, and it scares me that we have the same 5 right now, because I'm certain.
I saw that.
Oh, and that's recent, because I recently moved Leon Bridges into my top 5, so that's only recently that's matched up apparently. So we must be wrong about something. The other 3 we're predicting are Sam Hunt. We're probably right about that one. Fetty Wap and Leon Bridges. What's wrong with us, and where is it going to go wrong?
Okay, so pretty confident. He'll probably be the token rapper who gets in. He had an amazing year. He's very popular, hit after hit. Trap Queen, decent sales. He's collaborated with a lot of other rappers in the industry, so I'm pretty confident. Leon Bridges, I threw in my predictions after I attended the AMAs last year, and he had an amazing reaction from the fans and the audience. And he's written for other artists in the industry. He's well known in the industry, like behind the scenes, and I feel like people are rallying behind him. And he's been doing Grammy Q&As and programs, and I pay attention to that stuff. People always laughing because I say that people campaign for Grammys too, not just Oscars and Globes and stuff. So I pay attention to the Q&As and the Grammy programs, and he's been making his rounds this year. Definitely.
I moved him into my predictions after the American Music Awards, actually, which is sort of a knee-jerk kind of thing that I might regret, because after the VMAs I had Tori Kelly in there, and I've taken her out.
Me too.
The VMAs were so last week. Who cares about those anymore?
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact, that performance with Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, it's sort of similar to what happened with Chris Stapleton at the CMAs, giving him that showcase performance with Justin Timberlake shows how much that industry is behind him. And so seeing Leon Bridges get that showcase with Macklemore and Ryan Lewis made me feel the same way. And also because there's usually, not always, but usually a slightly more obscure, doesn't have as much public name recognition artist who gets in here. Sometimes they win, like Esperanza Spalding. People like Bastille last year. I don't know. They had the widest, or more actually, the country artist Brandy Clark, who got in last year, was a similar situation of where they didn't have the biggest name recognition, but they got in anyway. And I should note that we're actually going against the grain a little bit for Best New Artist, because Leon Bridges actually isn't in our top 5 for Best New Artist. He's in our top 10, but just barely.
Wow.
Actually, our predictions overall say that last spot is going to go to Walk the Moon. They agree on Fetty Wap. Sam Hunt is in 3rd. Meghan Trainor is in 2nd, and Hozier is predicted to win as of now.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a possibility. I mean, Shut Up and Dance was a huge hit. It's Grammy friendly. They could definitely get in here, and there's no other major group that's really buzzing about this year. They're the only group actually in our top 10.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, because I can't think of the last time they didn't nominate a group in Best New Artist. So a rock band that crossed over this year, I think it's a possibility. I might have to tweak my predictions soon.
Now, there's another factor in Best New Artist that makes me wary of a couple of other contenders, including Tori Kelly, who we talked about, is the solo female artist factor. Now, this hasn't been a factor recently. The last 4 or 5 winners have been male artists or male groups, but this category does disproportionately like solo female artists. And that makes me think Tori Kelly, who's this powerhouse vocalist, has a good shot here that we might not be expecting. And also FKA Twigs. And she could be, she's that cool indie cred kind of artist who cool kids like. And I feel like one of those can get in because, she doesn't quite have the name recognition of some of her rivals, but she does have the cred. And she is a critic's darling, and she could have gotten in last year, I believe, but she wasn't nominated for anything, so she's still eligible to get nominated, because obviously at the Grammy she hasn't broken through yet. I think that could happen for her. I'm tinkering with that last spot. I'm fairly confident, which is also dangerous, in my top 4, which is Meghan Trainor, Hozier, Fetty Wap, and Sam Hunt. But that 5th slot, I keep changing it every other day. And for all we know, there's a Bon Iver coming.
I can see Tori Kelly getting in. She's lost so much momentum in the last few months since the VMAs, and she seems like the kind of artist that would need more hits to get nominated. She's an amazing singer, but she doesn't really have that big hit to be nominated. Opposed to a FKA Twigs, who can just get in based off of her acclaim, respect, people love her, she's refreshing, something new. So if it came down to those two, I would definitely go with FKA Twigs.
Okay, so
and I predicted her to get in last year, but
yeah, second time's the charm, maybe. Before we sign off, I want to know, we mentioned Bon Iver, who wasn't the biggest hit maker of the year when they were nominated and won Best New Artist and were nominated for Record of the Year. Do you think there is a Bon Iver in the wings somewhere? Some artist who is bigger than we think they're going to be. We're not predicting them really in many categories of or any, but you think there's a possibility maybe we're underestimating.
And best new artist, maybe Sam Hunt. Maybe Sam Hunt. He seems like someone who can really surprise
Yeah.
come Grammy nomination morning.
And the interesting thing about Sam Hunt is that the last country artist to win Best New Artist was the Zac Brown Band, and that was another sort of lean year for the category where there's no clear, obvious breakout star. And Sam Hunt is a big breakout star in the country community. He doesn't have quite as much name recognition in outside of country music. But that's changing. He performed at the CMAs. He won at the American Music Awards, won Best Artist, a fan voted award. So clearly he had enough support to beat The Weeknd in that category, who had the biggest hit of the summer. So since his album was a big hit, without any other obvious choice, if they feel like Meghan Trainor is too lightweight, if they feel Hozier is too last week. Sam Hunt is right now, and he's popping at the exact right time. He could pull it off.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see him winning. I'm not sure he has the backing from the country community, because I watched the CMAs and I feel like didn't Chris Stapleton win all of his awards? So I'm like, that was kind of scary. If you can't win in your home, it's going to be hard to win at the Grammys.
Yeah. Chris Stapleton drank his milkshake.
Oh yeah.
He drank everyone's milkshake. He drank Casey Musgrave's milkshake. He drank Blake Shelton's milkshake. No one had milkshake. All right. So with that, I think that's a good place to call it a wrap on this Grammy slugfest session, talking about the Grammy nominations. And there's so many surprises typically at the Grammys that I'm a little afraid of how much we are in sync with our predictions. I'm pretty sure we're both going to regret it. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to regret it, because we always regret something. We're always missing something.
Oh yeah. I'm already preparing myself for Grammy morning. So
all right. Well, have a good night, and we'll see what happens on Grammy nomination morning.
all